Okay, today we're going to be representing and analyzing data using two-way frequency tables. First, we need to know what a two-way frequency table is. And a two-way frequency table is a table that lists two categorical variables whose values have been paired. Remember that categorical information is always qualitative data. And this table is going to display both the joint and the marginal relative frequencies. So before we can move on with that, we need to define what joint and marginal relative frequencies are. For joint relative frequencies, that's when you divide a frequency that is not in the row or column total by the grand total. So as you can see, I've highlighted divide by the grand total in yellow, and my joint relative frequency is going to be green. Marginal relative frequency is when you divide a row or a column total by the grand total. So again, I am highlighting divide by the grand total in yellow, and now marginal relative frequency is going to be in pink. Now another relative frequency we're going to be talking about is called conditional relative frequency. And in this relative frequency, we're going to be dividing by a frequency that is not in the row or column total by the frequency's row total or column total. So as you can see, I have highlighted divide by row total or column total in yellow, and my conditional relative frequency is going to be orange. Now you can pause this at any time so that you can catch up with your notes, and then you can press play to continue. Our first example is going to be about a survey where we are going to survey boys and girls, 40 students, on the type of pet they have at home. And as you can see, some of this chart is empty. So we're going to try to fill this in together, but I will give you a few seconds to do it on your own. So again, if you can pause here, remember that the total number of students surveyed was 40, so that's why we put the 40 here for our grand total, okay? Now we just have to figure out what these missing pieces are. So I know that there are a total of 16 girls, 7 of them own cats, and 1 girl owns another type of pet. That means that we can add 7 plus 1, which gives us 8. And to get to 16, we need 8 more girls. That means 8 girls own dogs. Now, I know that we have 16 girls and we have a total of 40 people. So we need to find out how many boys we had to make 40. So 16 plus something should give us 40. And that would mean that we have 24 boys, because 24 plus 16 gives us 40 total people. Now, I know now that we have 24 boys. So I have 10 boys that have dogs, 9 that have other types of pets, but I don't know how many boys have cats. So I just add 10 plus 9, which gives us the 19. Now I need to find out how much more to get to 24. So that would give us a 5. And then we just add our boy and girl total to get how many dog owners we have. In this case, we have 18. Here we have 12. And here 9 plus 1 is 10. And we verify our amounts to make sure that we have 40 total people. So 18 plus 12 is 30, and 30 plus 10 will give us that 40, which is that grand total. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the marginal relative frequency, okay? And we're going to call this the MRF. Okay, marginal relative frequency. So the question is, what is the marginal relative frequency of students who own a cat? So before I do that, I'm going to highlight my table with the colors that we have for marginal relative frequency, which were pink and yellow. So my grand total is going to be yellow, and then the marginals or the margins are going to be in pink. Okay, so I'm going to take my yellow highlighter, and I'm going to highlight my grand total, which is the 40. And then my margins are actually going to be the numbers that are on the outside. Okay, so this stuff right here is going to be the margin. This is why we call it marginal. Okay, so now from here, we're going to take students who own a cat. I need to look for the category cat and how many students actually own cats, which is 12. So I'm going to take that 12 and I'm going to divide it by the grand total, which is the 40. Okay. Okay. Now with your calculator, I want you to divide 12 by 40. And we're going to end up getting a 0.3. But we want to turn this decimal into a percent. So first step is we want to create a fraction, which we just did. And then we want to divide by the grand total and convert that fraction into a percent by multiplying after we divide by 100. And then we're going to round to the nearest tenth if possible. So taking your 0.3, we're going to multiply it by 100. And that should give you a 30%. Okay? Now remember, our final answer, we need to contextualize it. So what is the question we're trying to answer? Marginal relative frequency of students who own a cat. So 30% of students own a cat. Okay? Now, I want you to try the next one. Now we're saying, what is the marginal relative frequency of students who own a dog? So we're going to go to the dog category. How many people own dogs? And that means we have 18 total people who own dogs. So we're going to write that down. We want to create that fraction, so we need to divide by the grand total. In this case, out of 40 people, 18 of them have a dog. So we're going to say out of 40. Now take your calculator and divide 18 by 40. And we're going to get a 0.45. And again, I want to turn this decimal into a percent. So I'm going to multiply it by 100. And now I'm going to get 45%. Again, this number doesn't mean anything unless we contextualize it. So we need to look at the question. The question is telling us what is the margin relative frequency of students who own a dog. And we can say that 45% of students own a dog. So one more time, for marginal relative frequencies, we're looking at the margins of our table, and we're always going to divide by that grand total. Okay, marginal relative frequency. We're looking at the margins. Okay, all right. So now I'm going to go to my next page, and I'm going to bring my table back. Okay, so my table is still the same. This time, though, we're going to talk about the joint relative frequency. Okay, and what joint relative frequency means is we're looking at the two categories joining together. So all of that information where they join, that's called the joint. So we're going to talk about these items. So make sure to use green. That's what I used for joint relative frequency. And again, we need to divide by our grand total. Okay? So now my question is, well, what is the joint relative frequency of boys who have dogs as pets? So if you look at boys who have dogs as pets, we're going to go to the box that shows where boys and dogs meet. In this case, there are 10 boys who have dogs as pets. So we're going to use that as our initial number, and we're going to divide that by our grand total. If you forgot what our grand total was, make sure to label it. Okay? And we're going to divide this by 40. So again, grab your calculator, divide 10 by 40, and you're going to get a 0.25. Again, we want to convert this into a percent. So go on ahead and multiply it by 100. And we're going to get 25%. Now, what is the joint relative frequency of boys who have dogs as pets? We have 25%. of boys have pets, have dogs as pets. Always write your complete sentence, okay? Again, you can pause this at any time. We're going to now go to the next question. And the next question is, what is the joint relative frequency of girls who have other types of pets? So we're going to now go to girls, look for girls, and now we need other types of pets. So wherever those two categories meet, that's the number we need, okay? So I'm going girls, other, and I'm going to see that only one girl has another type of pet. So I'm going to take that number 1, and I still have to divide by the grand total, which is 40. Take your calculator, and again, you can pause at any time, okay? So if you need to slow down, if you need to play it back, do that, okay? 1 divided by 40 is going to give me a 0.025, okay? I'm going to multiply that by 100 to turn it into a percent. And I have 2.5%. Okay, I have 2.5% of girls who have other types of pets. Okay? So, marginal relative frequency means that we're looking at our margin numbers divided by the grand total. Joint relative frequency is talking about when our categories are joining together, so we're using the numbers on the inside of our table. Okay? Now, for conditional relative frequency, we're now going to look at a condition, and the condition is going to be where two categories meet, but we're looking at either a row total or a column total. Okay? And remember, for conditional, we had orange. Okay? Now, we're going to either be dividing by this number, or one of these three numbers, depending on what category gets mentioned first. We are not dividing by the grand total. So remember, we are not dividing by the grand total. Okay? So here we go. We're going to be looking at either one of these numbers in here for conditional, but our denominator, our total, can change depending on what is being mentioned, okay? So let's take a look at that first question. The first question is asking us, what is the conditional relative frequency of girls who have other types of pets, okay? Now this time we're talking about conditional, okay? And this is the word that gives it away for us, okay? Conditional. So my first category, the first thing they mentioned was girls. So you have to go look for your girl row, and then you need to look at the total of number of girls that we had. And it looks like we only had 16 girls, okay? Now, that number is the number you're going to be dividing by. So as you can see now, that 16 is on the bottom, the total number of girls. Now, out of those girls, how many of them have other types of pets? So I'm looking at this row, other types of pets. It looks like one girl out of 16 girls have other types of pets, okay? Go on ahead and take your calculator. We're going to divide 1 by 16. And then I get a 0.0625. We're going to multiply that by 100 because we want to turn it into a percent. And I got 6.25%, okay? So the conditional relative frequency of girls who have other types of pets is 6.5%, okay? And we're going to write that down. Okay? So I'm going to give you the last problem here, or second to last, I'm sorry. In this one we have, what is the conditional relative frequency of boys who have cats as pets. So again, we have a condition. The condition is boys. Boys is the first category that we mentioned. So that means we're looking at the boy total. So we're going to boys and we go all the way through, which is 24. That means our denominator, the bottom number, is going to be 24. Now, out of all of those boys, how many of them have cats as pets? So we go check. This is for dog. This is for cat. So 5 out of 24 boys have cats as pets. Okay? So go on ahead and pause that so you can calculate, and let's see if we have the same thing together. Okay? I'm going to take my 5 divided by 24. I'm going to get a 0. And I'm going to round here 0.21 because you got to get a 0.208333. So I'm just going to round to the nearest hundredth here. Okay, and I'm going to multiply that by 100, and that's going to give me 21%. Okay, and 21% of boys have cats as pets. Right? Okay, our next question is, well, what is the conditional relative frequency of cat owners who are boys? Okay, so again, we're looking at the condition. Okay, this is a condition, so we're looking at the first category mentioned. The first category mentioned was cat owners. Okay, now this time we have to find out where the cat owner total is. Okay, now we know that the 24 was the boy total and the 16 was the girl total. Okay, so now I have to find out what the cat owner total is. Okay, and it looks like you go to your category. This is dog, cat, other. I want cat owner total, and how many people owned cats altogether, and that was 12. So 12 is going to be my denominator. So that's going to be the number I'm going to write on the bottom. Now, out of all of the people who own cats, how many of them are boys? That's what this question is asking. So out of those 12 people, 5 of them are boys. So 5 is going to be on the top. You can pause that, solve it, and then we check back together. I'm going to divide the 5 by 12. And then I get 0.416666. So I'm going to round again to the nearest hundredth, and I get 0.42. I'm going to multiply that by 100, and I got 42%. Now again, what are we talking about? 42% of cat owners are boys. Okay? All right. And we're nearing to the end here. This is now second to last. What is the conditional relative frequency of dog owners who are girls? Again, we have a condition. The condition is the first category. First category here is dog owners. So again, we know that the 24 is the total for boys. The 16 is total for girls. Now we're looking for the total of dog owners. So I go to the dog category, and 18 people had dogs as pets. So that's going to be my denominator or bottom number. Out of 18, how many of those people were girls? That's the question. So out of 18 total dog owners, it looks like 8 of them were girls. So we're going to use 8 as our numerator. Now go on ahead and pause, divide, multiply by 100 to get your percent. If I divide 8 by 18, I'm going to get a 0.44444. So I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth. I'm going to get 0.44. Multiply that by 100, and I'm going to get 44%. So I'm going to contextualize it. 44% of dog owners are girls. Okay? And last one, I promise this time. I've been saying last one for the past 3 minutes. Okay, what is the conditional relative frequency of other pet owners who are boys?